Memory usage grew linearly with file size until the pod was OOMKilled. The culprit, await file read, without a size limit. Let's break down FastAPI file uploads and form data, how it works, and the exact mistake behind that failure. FastAPI file uploads and form data refer to the built-in capabilities for handling multi-part form submissions. Think of it like mailing a package with a form inside. The letter has your name and address, while the box holds the actual item. FastAPI uses the upload file class for file handling, which provides an asynchronous interface for streaming large files without loading them entirely into memory. FastAPI uses the upload file class and form dependency to parse multi-part requests. Unlike JSON bodies, form data mixes text fields with binary file streams. FastAPI reads the raw request body, splits it by the MIME boundary, and exposes each part as a Python object. Upload file wraps a spooled temporary file, meaning small files stay in memory while large ones spill to disk automatically. For a single file upload, declare the parameter as upload file equals file. Always validate the MIME type and enforce a maximum file size. Stream the file in chunks to avoid memory spikes. Here's the code for a single file upload endpoint. Notice we validate the content type, then read the file in 1 MB chunks, checking the cumulative size against a 10 MB limit. This prevents memory exhaustion. A frequent pain point is trying to send a pedantic JSON body alongside a file. Due to HTTP, you cannot mix application/JSON and multipart/form data. Instead, declare each form field using form. For complex data, serialize to a JSON string in a form field. This endpoint mixes a required username, a bio with minimum length, and an optional avatar file. Each form field is declared individually with form or file. The optional file defaults to none. FastAPI natively supports multiple files under the same field name by declaring the parameter as a list of upload file. The client sends each file with the same key, and FastAPI collects them into a Python list. Always enforce both per file and total size limits and cap the number of files. This code handles multiple files. Note that it accumulates each file's content in memory before writing, which can be problematic for large files. A better approach is to stream each chunk directly to disk. The content type attribute from the client is trivial to spoof. To validate file contents, use Python magic, which reads magic bytes to determine the actual MIME type. Always seek back to 0 after reading the magic chunk so you don't lose the file data. This function reads the first 2048 bytes, detects the MIME type using magic, then resets the stream position. If the detected type is not allowed, it raises an HTTP exception. Saving uploaded files with the client-provided file name is dangerous. A malicious user can supply a name like /etc/password to overwrite system files. Always sanitize file names or generate a UUID-based name and store the original in a database. The sanitize file name function removes directory separators and replaces unsafe characters. The generate unique file name function creates a UUID-based name while preserving the file extension. Best practice is to never use the original file name on disk. Most developers install python-multipart without knowing why. HTTP doesn't have a native file upload method. It uses multipart/form data. FastAPI doesn't ship with a multipart parser because most APIs never need it. Python-multipart is a battle-tested library that handles boundary detection and streaming. Without it, FastAPI's form and file decorators throw a 422 error. This code simulates what FastAPI sees under the hood. The username comes from a text part, the avatar from an octet stream part. The curl command shows how to send both fields in a single multipart request. Newcomers assume file means mandatory, but you can make a file optional by using file none. The idiomatic pattern is file, upload file equals file, none. Always check if file is not none before accessing any attributes to avoid runtime errors. This endpoint has a required username, an optional avatar, and an optional bio. Notice the guard if avatar is not none before reading. This prevents a runtime error when no file is sent. FastAPI doesn't autosave uploaded files. The upload file object holds a spooled temporary file that vanishes after the request ends unless you persist it. Always move the file to a permanent location using shuttle, copyFileobj. Use UUID-based file names to prevent collisions. This code saves the uploaded file to a local directory with a UUID prefix. The copyFileobj function streams the file efficiently from the temporary file to the permanent destination. FastAPI runs on Starlet for ASGI performance and Pydantic for validation. Automatic OpenAPI docs eliminate manual documentation. Type hints drive request validation, serialization, and interactive docs simultaneously. Dependency injection is baked into every endpoint. FastAPI's core code is about 2,500 lines, with Pydantic and Starlet adding more. But your code is just endpoints. The framework handles the heavy lifting. Authentication in FastAPI is not built in, and that's intentional. You pick the scheme, OAuth2, JWT, API keys, or session cookies. Use depends as the injection point. For file uploads, authenticate before accepting the file to reject unauthenticated requests early, saving bandwidth. This endpoint uses OAuth to password bearer to extract a token from the authorization header. The verify token dependency checks the token before the file is processed. Never accept tokens via multipart form fields. This is the same issue we highlighted at the start. Here's exactly why that happened. The API became unresponsive under 10 concurrent 50 MB uploads. The team assumed FastAPI's upload file would handle large files by streaming to disk automatically, but the endpoint used await file read, without a size limit, reading the entire file into memory. Upload files spooling only kicks in if you write to disk via file. Read returns all bytes at once. The endpoint used await file read, without a size limit, reading the entire file into memory before processing, which caused OOM under concurrent uploads. The fix was to implement chunked reading with a max chunk size of 1 MB and a cumulative size check. If the file exceeds 100 MB, reject immediately with a 413 error. Use file for streaming writes with shuttle, copyFileobj. This keeps memory constant and prevents OOM. Never call await file read without a size argument in production. It loads the entire file into memory, causing OOM for large files. Always pass a chunk size, while chunk equals await file, read 1024*1024. Using file for form fields that are not files causes FastAPI to expect a file upload for that field, resulting in a 422 error. Use form for non-file fields. The content type attribute is client-controlled and trivial to spoof. A malicious client can upload an executable with content type, image JPEG. Always use Python magic to detect the actual MIME type from file bytes. For production, avoid writing to local disk by streaming directly to cloud storage. This example shows how to upload a file to simple storage service using Bodo3 and upload file without saving to a temporary file. FastAPI relies on python-multipart for parsing multipart data. As of python-multipart 007, the library is pure Python and may be slower for large uploads. For production, consider using python-multipart >= 0, 9, which includes C extensions for better performance. The article mentions Python magic, but doesn't show an async-friendly version. Use Asyncio to thread to avoid blocking the event loop when calling magic from buffer. Use curl to test the endpoint and verify the content type. Check server logs with debug level. Ensure the root parameter is declared as upload file equals file. If you call file read before writing, you may have consumed the stream. Add print statements to debug. Let's run through some common interview questions. Difference between bytes and upload file. Bytes reads entire file into memory. Upload file wraps spooled temporary file for streaming. How does python-multipart interact with FastAPI? It parses multipart/form data, separating file parts and form fields. Security risks with user file names. Path traversal. Sanitize with UUID or whitelist characters. And a few frequently asked questions. How to save uploaded files. Use shuttle, copafiliobj, or async chunk loop to stream to disk. Why can't I mix JSON and multipart? HTTP multipart encoding doesn't map to a single JSON object. Use individual form parameters. How to handle multiple files? Use list upload file equals file and iterate. To recap, always use upload file for file uploads to leverage streaming and memory efficiency. Validate both MIME type and file size. Sanitize file names to prevent path traversal. And never trust the client-provided content type. Verify with magic bytes. Ready to go deeper? Up next, FastAPI middleware, then FastAPI testing with PyTest and test client, then FastAPI WebSockets. Find them all at TheCodeForge.io. Thanks for watching. The full article and code examples are covered in detail at TheCodeForge.io.